Welcome to the Abroad in America podcast, the only financial podcast designed specifically for expats living in America, where you go behind the scenes with financial planner, author, and speaker Jimmy Miller to learn how to make your time in America as financially rewarding as possible. And now, here's your host, Jimmy Miller.
Welcome to Abroad in America, the only financial podcast for expats and foreign nationals in America. In this episode, we're going to speak with Florian, a German who is currently working as an expat in Moscow, Russia, but was an expat in America for, how long were you an expat there?
3.5 years.
3.5 years. Florian's expertise is in the sports apparel industry, and his story about living and working in America will bring some great insights into what it's like to have been abroad in America. So welcome, Florian. It's great to have you on the podcast. Let's get right into it and have you start by telling us a little bit about yourself and your expat journey thus far in life.
Thank you, Jimmy. Thanks for having me. My name is Florian. I'm 36 years old. Most of my expat life or my work life, I worked for Adidas, first in Germany, and then I moved over to the Reebok brand, which is a part of the Adidas company in the United States in Boston. Stayed there for 3.5 years, then moved back to Germany. And now since almost 1 year, I'm working in Russia for a Russian sports company called Sportmaster. How I got into the sports apparel industry, it was more about my private interest, let's say, which is sport. So my background at university was normal business studies and always wanted to stay connected to sports in the end. And then I started my life as an intern at Nike, which is a sports company. And after that, I switched to Adidas. And this is how I got into the industry.
Excellent. And when you were living and working in America, how did you find that job? Tell us a little bit about that expat experience.
And that was actually pretty straightforward because it was an internal role in my department, which was newly created. So at one day, just my manager came up to me and asked me if I would be interested to move for a job to the United States. So that was quite straightforward and not a big deal, let's say.
Excellent. And what was the deciding factor that made you decide to take that job when they offered it to you to move to America?
For me, always, and this is also why my manager back then came straight to me, I always said I would like to live abroad. I cannot tell even why and how this came up to my mind, but I was always interested to get out of my comfort zone and check something new. And that's why he came to me first. Going to the US was then, of course, an easier step than maybe to some other cultures because language-wise, it was not a big it's not a big problem because of the English everywhere. So that's why that was, I think, the main deciding factor was my curiosity. Also, I have to say that I took the job without having ever been in the United States before. So I never even visited or traveled there. It was my first time. But as I said, the culture is quite close to each other. So close to Western Europe, at least. So it was not such a huge step for me. It felt not like that.
Awesome. So where did you land in America and what did you like best about living and working in America as an expat?
So I landed in Boston, Massachusetts. And for me, really a cool and nice city. I arrived there in summer, which is very good time to be in Boston when you're close to the ocean and close to the water. Wintertime in Boston is not the same, I would say. Living in the US for me was... the coolest thing about everything was that it felt for me outside of work, it felt like a holiday because you're coming to something completely new and you're discovering something new every weekend or every evening. You go to new restaurants or you go to new places, you meet new people. So that was one of my biggest positive things I remember, especially in the beginning. And also for me, the American way of life was also cool. People are really doing a lot of things. They're going out. It's not very usual from what I felt in Boston that people sit at home and cooking and spend the evenings at home. People are quite outgoing. And this is a big difference to Germany, at least at that time. So that's what was really cool for me, also to make new friends and meet new people.
That's awesome. It sounds like it was a good experience. Was there anything that was completely different than what you expected when you got to America and started working there?
So for me, one big difference, or what was completely different I expected, was the life also in the office. In Germany, I was quite used to staying long hours in the office because also the traffic where I worked before was not so serious, or is not so serious in Germany overall. However, in Boston, that's different. And people really, they left the office at 5 sharp. So at 5:30, there was no one in the office. That doesn't mean that no one maybe worked in the evening or maybe just looked at a laptop. But after 5, the office was really empty. That was something which was very different that I have experienced before. And also I did not expect it. Also, but that's also because of the situation there. People live outside of the city. I lived in the city center. It was very hard to get in touch with your work colleagues outside of working hours. That didn't happen a lot. That was also quite different in Germany because a lot of people there lived in the city center and you just they have the same lifestyle. However, that was very different in the US for me.
And was there anything about living and working there that you really didn't like at all? Like if you had to pick one thing that you just didn't like about America or working or the culture or something like that, what would you say that would be?
I mean, if I pick one thing work-wise, which was for me as a German very hard, was the different approach to how people are at work. So for me, as a German, you're kind of always pushed to make things better, look at processes in a different way and change them to make them more efficient. However, at least in the company I worked there, people were more like executing things. And when you basically were trying to change something or make a process better because for you it made no sense, it came across very often to my American colleagues that I was lazy and I just didn't want to do the task that I was given. So that was something which took me really a very long time to adjust to and also to find the right way to communicate then, because it seems that I was maybe a bit too harsh in the beginning and kind of saying, okay, what you're doing here is not good. We need to do this better. However, I just want to make it for everybody better and not only for myself because I'm lazy. So that was a quite big difference and also was very hard for me to get used to.
Excellent. And what about the financial system in America? Was it hard to get used to? Did you make an effort while you were there to learn about investments in the American financial system? Their retirement accounts are different, obviously, than Europe and Germany. Was that difficult, or did you have any trouble learning about that? Did you learn about it while you were there, or did you just kind of go with the flow?
There's financial system and healthcare system. Those two things were like really very new to me. Healthcare system, for the one thing, in Germany, I was always in the public insurance. And you never see a bill by any doctor or anything. Everything is handled directly and straight. However, in the US, this was different. And also you have certain money you have to pay on top or things like this, or some things are not covered. I didn't know that, so I had to get into that. That was quite strange for me in the beginning. Financial wise, actually not too much because I left my retirement accounts in Germany and untouched. However, I paid into a 401k in the US. And that for me was a really cool system and quite straightforward, actually. Could get into that really fast. So that's why for me that was easy. Might not be for everybody, but that was quite good.
Excellent. And simple question, would you move to America again to work if an opportunity presented itself?
Yes, I would. I definitely would. After I've been in the States for a while, I saw quite some cities and I would only move for the right location, let's say. But yes, definitely.
And one of the biggest issues for expats when they're ready to leave America is the ability to take their retirement and investment money home with them. Was this an issue for you? How did you handle that?
Was not an issue for me somehow because I never really thought about touching them. You know, it was retirement money. I have it in the US. I have it on an account there. And from the beginning, I was quite clear that I just leave it there and see how it goes down the road. So I did not think about that too much, to be really honest.
And what advice would you give someone that's thinking about moving to America for a job or an adventure?
Advice, first of all, really, check what you're getting into. For me, the biggest difference to Germany was also the cost of living for certain things. I was not an expat in any other country before. I was in Europe, and there usually the differences are not so big between the countries. in the US, some things are just so much more expensive than you're used to from Europe. Some things are cheaper, and you need to really know before what your lifestyle is and where you spend your money on. For me, actually, all the things I'm doing in my life, like going to sports event, doing sports, other things, they are much more expensive in the US than it is in Europe. And for me, in the beginning, it was really a struggle to get my cost of living aligned to my salary in the end, and really make some research before, because that would help me a lot to do more research.
Excellent information. Thanks for sharing that. What do you know now that you wish you'd had known then that would help you if you were going to go back to America again, or you were talking to somebody that was headed towards America?
For me, definitely, it would help also to know more about the financial system and investment options in the US, which I did not know back then. And to be honest, I did not take advantage of. So this is something I would like to have known before. And also otherwise for me, it would have been really good before to know also, some people throughout the US in different locations, where you go and what you do. Because if I know some friends there, but you learn just a lot about where the right places to go in what city when you're really there. And some people to guide me around would have helped sometimes.
Excellent information. And would you say it was a good move financially to go and work in America? If somebody's wondering if they're really going to get ahead financially, what would you tell them in that instance? Would they just go for the adventure and to see the culture? Or is it also a good move financially? I know you mentioned that you had trouble aligning some of the different costs between Europe and America, but in the end, do you think, just speaking financially, is it good to take a job and move to America?
This very depends on the salary you're getting and how your contract is also aligned. If you're on an expat contract, let's say, then usually it's always a very good move financially. For me, it was a local contract, and things were a bit different. And because of the tax systems and other things are very, very different, I thought I made my homework and did my research before, but I didn't do it properly. So after all, for me, it was, I think financially it was an even move. It was not a good nor bad move. It was really an even move, but I expected it to be a bit more positive. But like I said, I wasn't clear about some costs and some tax implications and other things. So this is something really some people need to do research about if they think about that.
Excellent. That's a great story, and I'm happy you're able to come on the podcast and share. I think this is all great information and perspective that will help others that are beginning their journey or thinking about becoming an expat in America. Thanks very much for your time and sharing your story and experiences with everyone. I think it was really valuable. Thanks, Florian.
Thank you for having me, Jimmy.
Want even more ideas, tools, and resources on how to navigate your financial life as an expat in America? Check out all the resources on Jimmy's website at baobabwealthabroad.com and subscribe to the blog to stay up to date on issues affecting expats. Don't forget to subscribe to never miss an episode. See you next time. Baobab Wealth Abroad is an independent, client-centered financial advisory firm providing comprehensive financial planning services to expats. Securities offered through Intervest International Equities Corporation, member FINRA, SIPC. Intervest International Equity Corporation is registered to conduct business in all 50 states and the District of Columbia. Advisory services offered through Intervest International Incorporated, an SEC registered investment advisor. Intervest is licensed to sell insurance in all 50 states and the District of Columbia.
This podcast is designed for general education purposes only and shouldn't be taken as legal, investment, or tax advice. You should seek out a qualified tax professional or licensed financial advisor to determine what is best for your personal situation.